The night was quiet, but inside the heart of Emma Carter, a storm was raging. She stood on the balcony of her small apartment in New York City, staring at the bright lights and the endless traffic below. People moved like shadows on the street, each with their own story, each chasing something unseen. But Emma felt as if she was standing still, trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside, but was filled with loneliness inside. She was beautiful, yes. People always told her so, her deep brown hair, her soft blue eyes, her gentle smile. She had a good job as a fashion photographer, traveling across cities like Paris, London, and Seoul. On her social media, thousands admired her pictures and followed her lifestyle. To them, Emma was the woman who had everything: a career, style, freedom. But what no one knew was this. Emma had built walls around her heart. She had been hurt before, hurt so deeply that she promised never to let anyone close again. Love, to her, was a shadow. Something that appeared and disappeared, something you could never truly hold. Her friends often teased her about being too serious, too cold, but Emma only smiled and changed the topic. Deep inside, she feared love more than anything, because love had once betrayed her. As she sipped from her glass of wine that night, her phone buzzed. It was her best friend, Chloe, who lived in London. "Emma," Chloe's voice came through the speaker, cheerful as always. "I booked your ticket. You're coming to London for the exhibition. No excuses." Emma sighed. "Chloe, I told you I'm busy. Deadlines, clients." No, Chloe interrupted. "I know you. You'll bury yourself in work and hide from life again. This exhibition is huge. Photographers from all over the world will be there. You'll meet people, make connections, maybe meet someone special." Emma laughed softly, almost bitterly. "Someone special? Chloe, love is not for me." "Stop saying that," Chloe replied, her tone turning firm. "You've been living like a ghost, Emma. You need light back in your life. Just come. Please." Emma hesitated. She looked at the city lights again. Part of her wanted to refuse. But another part, the quiet, aching part of her, wanted to escape this cage of fear. "All right," she whispered. "I'll come." Chloe screamed with joy on the phone, but Emma didn't smile. She didn't know that this single decision to fly to London would change everything. It would pull her into a story of love so powerful, yet so dangerous, it would leave her breathless. When Emma arrived in London a week later, the air felt different. The streets smelled of rain and coffee, and the sound of people's laughter filled the air. Chloe hugged her tightly at the airport. "You look pale," Chloe said, studying her face. "Have you been sleeping?" "Work," Emma muttered. "Work, work, work," Chloe teased. "One day, work won't hold your hand when you're old. Come on, let's go. You'll love this city again." The exhibition was held in a huge glass building in the heart of the city. Photographers from Korea, China, India, the Philippines, Indonesia, Australia, Canada, Germany, France, and the USA had come to display their work. The hall was filled with voices, camera flashes, and the smell of fresh paint from the art displays. Emma walked through the crowd, holding her camera tightly. She felt out of place, like a shadow among the colorful lights. She didn't like crowds. She preferred to watch from a distance. Then it happened. Her eyes met his. He was standing across the hall, tall, with dark hair and sharp features. His eyes gray, cold, yet strangely warm, locked with hers. For a moment, Emma forgot how to breathe. It was as if the entire room faded, leaving only the two of them. He didn't smile. He didn't look away. He simply watched her, as if he could see through her walls, through her fears, straight into the fragile heart she was trying to hide. Emma quickly looked away, her heart beating fast. "Who is that?" she whispered to Chloe. Chloe followed her gaze and raised her eyebrows. "Oh, him? That's Adrian Knight. He's a photographer too. From Canada, I think. People say he's a genius, but he's kind of mysterious." "Mysterious?" Emma asked, pretending not to care, though her hands were trembling. "Yes," Chloe said with a grin. "Rumor is, he doesn't talk much about his past. Some say he lost someone he loved. Others say he's just arrogant. But one thing's true, he's brilliant. His photos touch people's souls. Emma's throat went dry. She didn't want to admit it, but something about Adrian unsettled her. He was like a shadow himself, dark, quiet, impossible to ignore. Later that evening, as Emma stood by her own work, Adrian walked past. He stopped in front of her photographs, studying them with silent intensity. "You capture loneliness," he said finally, his voice deep and calm. Emma froze. "Excuse me?" He turned to her, his gray eyes meeting hers again. "Your pictures. They carry loneliness in them. Like someone searching for light, but only finding shadows." Emma's lips parted, but no words came. No one had ever read her art like that before. Adrian tilted his head slightly. "Am I wrong?" Emma looked away, hiding the emotions in her eyes. "Maybe. Or maybe that's what you want to see." For the first time, a small smile appeared on Adrian's lips. But it wasn't a warm smile, it was the kind that held secrets. "I see what others don't," he said quietly. "That's both my gift and my curse." And with that, he walked away, leaving Emma's heart racing, her mind full of questions. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay awake in Chloe's apartment, staring at the ceiling. Adrian's words echoed in her head. How could a stranger see so deeply into her? How could someone she had just met make her feel both exposed and alive? She didn't want to admit it, but something inside her had awakened. Something she thought was dead. But she also felt fear. Because shadows were not just in her photographs. They were in Adrian too. And Emma knew, deep in her bones, that falling for him could either heal her heart or break it completely. And so, the shadow of love began. She was afraid. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I don't know if I can." Before she could finish, a sudden noise broke the moment. A group of joggers passed by, their laughter echoing in the air, shattering the silence. Adrian looked away, his jaw tight. "It's all right," he said, stepping back. "I shouldn't have said that." Emma reached out quickly. "No, Adrian, wait." But he was already walking away, his figure fading into the mist, leaving Emma standing alone by the water, her heart pounding, her soul torn between fear and longing. The shadow of love was growing stronger. And Emma knew this was only the beginning. The morning sun poured through the window of Chloe's London apartment, but Emma was already awake. She had barely slept. Adrian's face, his words, his piercing eyes, they had haunted her through the night like a ghost she couldn't push away. Chloe was making coffee in the kitchen when Emma walked in. "You look terrible," Chloe said, handing her a mug. "Thanks," Emma muttered, sipping it slowly. Chloe leaned against the counter, studying her carefully. "Is this about him?" Emma froze. "Who?" Chloe raised her eyebrows. "Don't play with me, Emma." "Adrian Knight. I saw the way you looked at him yesterday." Emma rolled her eyes and walked to the window. "It was nothing. He just said something strange about my work." "Strange?" Chloe pressed. Emma sighed. "He said my pictures show loneliness." Chloe tilted her head. "He's not wrong, you know." Emma turned sharply. "Excuse me?" Chloe walked closer. "Emma, your photos are beautiful, but they always carry sadness." Maybe he just saw the truth. Emma's chest tightened. "You sound just like him." Chloe smiled knowingly. "And that scares you, doesn't it?" Emma didn't answer. She hated how Chloe always saw through her. She hated even more how Adrian, a stranger, had looked straight into her soul. Later that day, the exhibition continued. The hall buzzed with excitement, people moving from one display to another, voices filling the air in English, French, German, Chinese, Korean, Tagalog, Hindi, and so many other languages. It felt like the whole world had gathered under one roof. Emma stood by her photographs, forcing herself to smile politely at people who complimented her work. But her mind wasn't there. Her eyes kept scanning the room, against her own will, searching for him. And then she saw him. Adrian was standing near the back, dressed in simple black, his camera hanging around his neck. He wasn't talking to anyone. He never seemed to belong to the crowd. He was like a shadow on the edge of the light. Emma told herself not to look. not to care. But when their eyes met again, she felt the same pull as yesterday. Her heart quickened, her hands went cold. She hated it. She hated how he made her feel alive and afraid at the same time. To her surprise, Adrian began walking toward her. Her breath caught in her throat. "Good morning," he said softly when he reached her. Emma nodded. "Morning." He looked at her photos again. "Still shadows," he said. She frowned. "Why do you keep saying that?" "Because it's true," he answered simply. "Your art speaks the words you're too afraid to say." Emma swallowed hard. "And what about your work? What does it say?" Adrian's lips curved into a faint smile. "Mine." He paused. "Mine speaks of things lost. Things I can never get back." Emma's heart skipped. There was pain in his voice, heavy pain. She wanted to ask more, but before she could, a group of young photographers came up to him. They greeted him with admiration, asking about his techniques, his travels, his secrets. Adrian gave polite answers, but soon excused himself. Before he left, his eyes found Emma again. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the shadow you fear is the only path to the light." And then he walked away. Emma stood frozen, her mind spinning. What did he mean? Why did his words always sound like riddles? Why did he stir feelings in her she thought were long dead? That evening, Chloe dragged Emma to a small after-party for the photographers. The place was cozy, filled with laughter, drinks, and music. Emma sat in a corner, trying to blend into the background, while Chloe danced with new friends. And then Adrian appeared. He didn't join the laughter or the music. He walked straight to her table and sat across from her without asking. "You don't like parties," he said, not as a question but as a fact. Emma raised an eyebrow. "And how do you know that?" "Because you sit in the corner," he replied calmly. "Just like me." Emma glanced at him. He was right. He wasn't dancing or laughing either. He was a shadow in the room, just like her. "Why are you always watching me?" she asked suddenly. Adrian leaned back in his chair, his gray eyes steady on hers. "Because you remind me of someone." Emma's breath caught. "Who?" For the first time, Adrian looked away. His jaw tightened, his hand clenched slightly on the table. "Someone I lost." Emma felt a pang in her chest. She wanted to ask, but she knew it was not the moment. Instead, she said softly, "I'm sorry." Adrian looked back at her, his gaze softer now. "Don't be. Some wounds never heal. But sometimes meeting someone new makes the pain bearable." Emma's heart raced. She looked down at her glass, unable to hold his eyes anymore. She felt drawn to him, but she also felt the danger. He was carrying shadows, just like her. And shadows, when they touched, could either merge into darkness or create light. Later that night, as Emma prepared to leave, Adrian stopped her at the door. "Emma," he said quietly, "may I show you something tomorrow?" She hesitated. "What?" "A place," he answered. "A place where I take my photographs when I want to remember. Meet me at Hyde Park. Noon." Emma wanted to say no. Every part of her brain screamed no. But her heart whispered yes. And so she nodded. All right. The next day, London was covered in a thin mist, the kind that made the streets look like a painting. Emma arrived at Hyde Park, her camera slung over her shoulder. She found Adrian waiting near the lake, a black scarf around his neck, his camera in his hands. Without much talk, he led her down a quiet path, away from the crowd. They walked past trees dripping with dew, past benches where old couples sat feeding birds. Finally, they stopped at a small hidden spot overlooking the water. "This," Adrian said, pointing at the scene before them, "is where I find my silence." Emma raised her camera, capturing the way the fog curled above the lake, the way the branches leaned into the water like whispers. It was beautiful, haunting, peaceful. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked softly. Adrian looked at her. His eyes, though cold, held a flicker of warmth. "Because you understand shadows. And only someone who understands shadows can see beauty in them." Emma's chest tightened. She lowered her camera, staring at him. "Adrian, who did you lose?" Silence. Long silence. Finally, Adrian spoke. His voice was low, heavy. Her name was Isabel. She was my fiancée. 3 years ago, she died in an accident. One moment she was there, smiling, alive. The next moment gone. Emma's eyes widened. I'm so sorry. Adrian turned his gaze to the water. Since then, I stopped believing in light. I live in shadows because they remind me of her. And yet, when I saw your photographs, when I saw you, he paused, his voice breaking slightly. I felt something. Something I thought I had buried forever. Emma's heart ached. She wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but she was frozen. Adrian looked at her again, his eyes deep, searching. Emma, you carry loneliness. I carry loss. Maybe we are both shadows. But together, maybe we can find light. Emma's throat tightened, tears stinging her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt her walls trembling, breaking. But the fog of Hyde Park still lingered in Emma's mind the next morning. She woke up late, her heart heavy. Adrian's words, his confession, his eyes filled with loss, they followed her like shadows she couldn't escape. Chloe was already up, scrolling through her phone when Emma entered the kitchen. Good morning, sleeping beauty, Chloe teased. Emma forced a smile. Morning. Chloe looked at her closely. You've been quiet since yesterday. Did something happen? Emma hesitated. She didn't know how much to share. Chloe was her best friend, but some things felt too fragile to say out loud. I met Adrian again, Emma finally admitted. Chloe's eyes lit up. Ah, the mysterious photographer. Tell me everything. Emma sighed and sat down. He told me about someone he lost. His fiancée. Chloe's smile faded. Oh. That explains the sadness in his eyes. Emma nodded. He said he lives in shadows because of her. But then he said maybe, together, we could find light. Chloe leaned forward. And how did that make you feel? Emma looked down at her hands. Scared. Very scared. Because for the first time in years, I felt something. And I don't know if I'm ready. Chloe reached over and touched her hand gently. Emma, you've been hiding from love for too long. Maybe this is your chance. But only you can decide. Emma swallowed hard. What if I let him in and he leaves me too? What if I break again? Chloe's eyes softened. What if you don't? What if this time, love heals instead of hurts? Emma didn't answer. She couldn't. Her heart was caught between hope and fear, and both were pulling her apart. That afternoon, Emma returned to the exhibition. The hall buzzed with more energy than before. People admired the photographs, some laughing, some wiping tears from their eyes as the art touched their souls. Emma stood by her work, but her eyes kept wandering, searching for him. Adrian wasn't there. The hours passed, and still he didn't appear. Emma felt restless, disappointed, even angry with herself for caring so much. Why was she waiting for him? Why did his absence feel louder than the voices around her? When the exhibition ended for the day, Emma stepped outside into the cool London evening. The sky was painted with streaks of orange and purple, the city lights beginning to glow. She pulled her coat tighter, walking aimlessly down the street. And then she saw him. Adrian was sitting on a bench near the Thames River, his camera beside him, staring at the water as if lost in thought. His shoulders looked heavy, his face unreadable. Emma hesitated. Part of her wanted to turn back, but something stronger pushed her forward. She stopped in front of him. You weren't at the exhibition today. Adrian looked up, surprised. His gray eyes softened when they met hers. I didn't feel like being there. Emma frowned. Why? He shrugged lightly. Crowds. Noise. Sometimes I just need silence. Emma sat down beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just sat there, listening to the gentle rush of the river, the distant sound of laughter from people passing by. Finally, Emma said softly, You know you can't hide from life forever. Adrian glanced at her. And you can? Emma froze. His words cut straight into her. He was right. She had been hiding too. You think I'm hiding? She asked quietly. Adrian's gaze didn't waver. Your photographs, your silence, the way you avoid people, yes. You're hiding. Just like me. Emma's chest tightened. She hated how he saw through her so easily, how he stripped away the mask she showed the world. Maybe I am, she whispered. Adrian leaned back, looking at the river again. Then maybe we're both cowards. Emma turned to him sharply. Cowards? Yes, Adrian said calmly. We're afraid of love, afraid of pain, afraid of losing again. So we live in shadows instead of stepping into the light. Emma didn't know what to say. His words were harsh, but they were true. After a long silence, Adrian spoke again, his voice softer this time. But maybe cowards can still find courage. Together. Emma's breath caught. She looked at him, her heart beating fast. His face was calm, but his eyes, those gray, haunted eyes, held something new. A flicker of hope. And for the first time, Emma let herself wonder. Could it be possible? Could two broken people, living in shadows, help each other find light? The days that followed were different. Adrian began appearing more often. He didn't just stay at the edges of the exhibition. Sometimes he stood beside Emma, quietly watching her work. Other times, he invited her to walk with him through London's hidden streets, where he captured photos of old brick walls, children chasing pigeons, couples holding hands. Emma found herself opening up in ways she hadn't in years. She told him about her childhood in New York, about how her parents' bitter divorce had shattered her trust in love. She confessed how her first serious boyfriend, a man she thought would be her forever, had cheated on her, leaving her broken. Adrian listened without judgment, his silence comforting, his presence steady. And slowly, Emma began to notice something. The more time she spent with him, the less heavy her loneliness felt. The more she laughed with Chloe and Adrian, the more she realized she was breathing again, truly breathing. One evening, as they walked near the Tower Bridge, Adrian suddenly stopped. The city lights shimmered on the water, casting reflections like golden trails. Emma, he said quietly, do you believe people can love twice? Emma blinked. What do you mean? He looked at her, his face unreadable. When Isabel died, I thought love died with her. I told myself I'd never feel it again, that my heart was buried with hers. But now, he paused, his voice trembling slightly. Now I'm not so sure. Emma's heart pounded. She wanted to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. Adrian stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. You make me feel alive again, Emma. And that terrifies me. Emma's chest tightened. She felt the same. Terrified. Vulnerable. Alive. Before she could answer, Adrian gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was soft, hesitant, as if afraid she would pull away. But she didn't. And in that moment, Emma realized the truth. She was falling. Slowly, deeply, dangerously falling. Into the shadow of love. The night air was cold as Emma walked back to Chloe's apartment, but her heart was burning. Adrian's words echoed in her mind. You make me feel alive again. She replayed the moment when his hand brushed her face, the warmth of his touch, the way his gray eyes had softened. It scared her. It thrilled her. She wanted to tell Chloe everything, but when she entered the apartment, Chloe was already asleep. Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her chest tight with questions. What was she doing? Was she really letting herself fall for Adrian Knight, a man who carried more shadows than light? A man who still grieved another woman? But no matter how hard she tried to push him away from her thoughts, his face remained. His voice lingered. His presence filled her like a fire she couldn't put out. The next day at the exhibition, Emma noticed whispers spreading among the photographers. She overheard two young artists from Germany talking in hushed voices. They say Adrian Knight is cursed, one said. Cursed? The other replied. Yes. Every woman who gets close to him suffers. Isabel, his fiancée, and before her, another girl. Both gone. Emma froze. She wanted to step closer, to demand answers, but she forced herself to stay still. Instead, her eyes darted across the hall, searching for Adrian. He was there, as always, calm and quiet, his camera hanging around his neck. But suddenly, Emma saw him differently. His silence looked heavier. His shadow seemed darker. That evening, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She confronted him. They stood outside the exhibition hall, the London sky painted gray with rain clouds. Adrian, Emma began, her voice tight. Who is she? Before Isabel? Adrian's jaw tensed. He looked away. Who told you? It doesn't matter, Emma said sharply. Just tell me the truth. For a long moment, Adrian didn't speak. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, drumming on the pavement. Finally, he turned to her, his eyes haunted. Her name was Lila, he said quietly. She was my first love. We met when I was 19. She was light, pure light. But she was sick. Cancer. I stayed with her until the end. I watched her fade away, day by day. And when she was gone, I thought I would never love again. Until Isabel. And then she was taken too. Emma's breath caught. Pain shot through her chest at his words. Adrian. He shook his head. Do you see now? Everyone I love disappears. That's why they call me cursed. That's why I live in shadows. Because if I step into the light, if I love again, I'm afraid I'll lose her too. Emma's heart broke for him. She wanted to hold him, to tell him he wasn't cursed. But fear gripped her. What if he was right? What if loving him meant pain? She stepped back slightly, her voice trembling. Maybe we should stop this before it begins. Adrian's eyes darkened. Is that what you want? Emma swallowed hard. I don't know what I want. For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy and suffocating. The rain soaked their clothes, ran down their faces, but neither of them moved. Finally, Adrian whispered, almost broken, I thought you were different. I thought you could see beyond the shadows. And with that, he turned and walked away, his figure disappearing into the storm. Emma stood frozen, the rain blurring her vision. She felt torn apart, as if her heart had split in two. That night, she cried silently in Chloe's apartment, her body trembling. Chloe found her curled on the couch and pulled her into a hug. What happened? Chloe whispered. Emma shook her head. I'm afraid, Chloe. Afraid of him. Afraid of losing. Afraid of feeling again. Chloe stroked her hair gently. Emma, love is always a risk. But so is life. If you keep hiding, you'll never heal. Emma buried her face in her hands. She didn't know what to do. The days that followed were heavy. Emma threw herself into work, avoiding Adrian. She stayed at her booth, speaking politely to visitors, but her heart wasn't in it. Every corner of the exhibition hall reminded her of him. Every shadow felt like his presence. And yet, Adrian didn't approach her. He kept his distance, his silence louder than words. Until one evening, Emma was leaving the hall when she felt someone watching her. She turned and there he was, standing by the entrance, his hair damp from the drizzle outside. Emma, he said softly. Her chest tightened. She wanted to run, but her feet refused to move. I'm leaving tomorrow, Adrian continued. Emma blinked. Leaving? Where?
Paris.
Then Berlin. Then Seoul. My work takes me everywhere.
He paused.
But before I go, I needed to see you one last time. Emma's heart pounded. Why? Adrian's eyes searched hers. Because even if you're afraid, even if you push me away, I had to tell you the truth. You're not just another shadow to me. You're the light I never thought I'd see again. Tears burned Emma's eyes. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to run into his arms. But her fear chained her down. Adrian, she whispered, her voice breaking, I don't know if I can give you what you want. Adrian stepped closer, his face inches from hers. I don't want perfection, Emma. I don't want promises. I just want the truth. Do you feel something for me? Emma's lips parted, but no words came. Tears slid down her cheeks. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I feel everything for you. And then, before she could respond, he kissed her. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was raw, desperate, filled with years of pain and longing. Emma's body trembled as his hands held her face, his lips pressing against hers like he was afraid she'd vanish. And in that moment, all her walls shattered. She kissed him back, fiercely, hungrily, as if she had been drowning for years and finally found air. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Don't be afraid, Emma.
Please.
Don't let fear steal this from us." Emma closed her eyes, her tears mixing with the rain. For the first time, she whispered the truth. "I'm falling, Adrian, and that terrifies me." Adrian smiled faintly, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Then let's fall together." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay awake, her heart racing, her lips still burning from his kiss. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. For the first time, she felt the possibility of light. But deep inside, fear still lingered. A whisper, a warning. Shadows don't vanish easily. And Emma knew something was coming. Something that could either seal their love forever, or destroy it completely. Rain poured heavily outside, beating against the glass windows of the Seoul hospital. The whole world seemed gray, as if the sky itself was mourning. Inside, Elena sat on a hard plastic chair, her face pale, her fingers trembling as they twisted the hem of her coat. She had been in the hospital for over 12 hours, waiting, praying, hoping. Lou lay unconscious inside the intensive care unit. His body was weak, his heartbeat fragile, but the doctors had told Elena one thing: his will to live was strong. "He is fighting," the doctor had said, "but he needs reason. Something to hold on to." Those words played in Elena's mind over and over again. She pressed her palms together and whispered, "Please, don't leave me now. Not when I finally found you. Not when love has just begun." Suddenly, the door to the ICU opened, and Elena rushed to her feet. Dr. Park, the head doctor, stepped out. His face was tired but calm. "He is stable," he said softly, "but his mind is still in the shadows. You can go in. Speak to him. Sometimes love is stronger than medicine." Elena's chest rose with hope. Her heels clicked against the cold floor as she entered the room. The sight of Lou broke her heart. He was lying there, motionless, 1,000 machines beeping around him. Tubes ran across his arms, oxygen against his nose. His skin was pale, his lips cracked, yet even in this state, he was the man she loved. Elena pulled a chair beside him, held his hand gently, and leaned close. "It's me, Elena," she whispered. "Do you hear me, Lou? I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care what the world says about us. I don't care about borders, about nations, about the shadows of the past. All I care about is you. Please come back." For a moment, silence. Then a weak movement. His fingers twitched. Elena's breath caught. She pressed his hand tighter, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Remember the train station in Shanghai? The rain, the music, the way you looked at me as if I was the only one in the world? Remember Paris, under the Eiffel Tower, when you told me love could survive anything? Remember New York, when you held me so close that the noise of the city faded? Please, Lou, don't let those memories become our goodbye. We have more to write, more to live." A faint sound came from Lou's throat. His lips parted slightly. Elena bent closer, hardly daring to breathe. "Elena," his voice was broken, fragile, but it was real.
Yes.
"Yes, it's me," she cried, her tears falling on his hand. "I'm here. I'll always be here." Lou opened his eyes slowly. His gaze was weak, but when it landed on her, warmth returned to his face. "I thought I lost you in the shadows." "No," Elena whispered fiercely, "not the shadows, not anymore. Love is stronger than shadows. Love is the light." His lips curved into the faintest smile. Outside the room, footsteps echoed. A man in a gray suit appeared in the doorway. Richard, Elena's old fiancé, the one who had tried to destroy them. He had come to see for himself. But what he saw was Elena, her face glowing with love, holding Lou's hand as if it was the most precious treasure in the world. Richard froze. Something in his chest cracked. He realized he had lost not because he wasn't powerful enough, but because he had never loved with truth. He turned away without a word, his figure fading into the hospital corridor. Days turned into weeks. Lou slowly regained his strength. The shadows of death lifted, though his body carried scars. Elena never left his side. She fed him soup with her own hands, read books to him, even sang softly at night to help him sleep. And every day, Lou's love for her grew deeper, stronger, unshakable. One evening, when the sky outside turned golden, Lou asked Elena to walk with him in the hospital garden. He leaned on her arm, his steps slow but steady. Flowers bloomed around them, raindrops still clinging to the petals after a storm. "Elena," Lou said softly, his voice carrying both weakness and strength. "I once lived in shadows, afraid of love, afraid of the world. But you gave me light. Even when the world wanted us apart, you stayed. You fought for me." She smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "And I always will." He stopped, turning to her. His hands trembled, but he pulled a small silver ring from his pocket. "I may not have much to give you, but I have this and I have my heart. Will you marry me, Elena?" Her hands flew to her mouth, her heart pounding wildly. She nodded, tears falling freely. "Yes, Lou. 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, his eyes glistening with emotion. Then he whispered, "From this day on, no more shadows. Only love." And in that quiet hospital garden, beneath the fading light of the evening sky, they kissed a kiss not of passion alone, but of survival, of destiny, of a love that conquered every border and every shadow. Months later, they stood together on a quiet beach in Australia, where the sun rose slowly over the ocean. Elena wore a simple white dress, Lou a light suit. Friends from across the world, France, China, Korea, the USA, had come to witness their union. The waves sang, the seagulls cried, and the wind carried their vows. Elena looked into his eyes and said, "No matter the distance, no matter the struggle, I will choose you, in light and in shadow." Lou smiled and answered, "And I will choose you, Elena, in this life and every life to come." As they sealed their vows with another kiss, the guests clapped, the waves roared, and the sky broke open with brilliant colors. The shadow of love had finally become the light of love, and the world, with all its noise and chaos, faded away, leaving only them.
The end.